Am I the a-hole for refusing to discuss our kid's last name with my ex? Ex and I broke up 5 years ago. We're civil enough for our kids' sake. But there is a lot of bad blood there that can't be undone easily. And this kind of discussion makes it harder. So ex got married a year ago and is 7 months pregnant with another child. She sent me an email not too long ago saying her and her husband have discussed adding their last name to our kid's last name. She said the kids had already been informed of their plans and were on board. But when my kids brought it up to me 2 days before X said anything, the kids mentioned it and said they didn't want their names changed. And my daughter was upset because she took it as it was happening regardless of how they feel. My son got the same impression. I replied to X that I did not consent and I would not discuss the issue further. It was short and simple, and that was all I planned to do. But then I got a slew of emails from her expressing that I was a prick, and we should discuss issues pertaining to our children, and that I am denying the kids of what they want, and she'll take me to court over this regardless. I told her that was fine. If she wanted to waste money in court, I would see her there. Her husband decides to call my office and talk crap to me over the phone about this issue. A few of my friends said I should have at least discussed this with her, instead of just saying no and that I won't talk about it. Am I the a-hole for this? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. If her husband responded by calling you at your work, then I'm not sure any discussion would have gone well anyway, except if it ended in them getting their way. They were justified in asking, but not in name-calling and calling you at work, which could have consequences for you. Not the a-hole. I think it was nice of Opie not to put his kids in it by saying they don't want it either. Opie can just as easily suggest they have the husband change his name and give the new kid the same last name as Opie. What? Then they can all have the same last name. Isn't that nice? Not the a-hole. Firstly, these are your kids too. Your input is required while they're minors. Secondly, it sounds like the kids weren't actually asked, but simply told this was happening. So she lied to you. Edited to add. If your ex or her partner are contacting you at work, it better be a child-related emergency. There's no other reason. The kids might have picked it up wrong. My ex was never great at communicating. But regardless, they have expressed strongly to me that they don't want this done. So that's all there is to it. Yep, that's point number 3. They don't want this. Firm not at a-hole. And while it's pessimistic, please document her attempt to force this name change and the response your children had. Info. Do I understand that correctly, that they want to add the new husband's last name to your children? That is so insane. I hope I understood that very wrong. Yes, this is what they want. So instead of Jones, it would be Jones-Smith or Smith-Jones. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to hyphenate my last name? My mom got married recently, and she and her husband to hyphenate their names and form one family name. Her husband's kids and my half-siblings are all on board with changing their names to the hyphenated version. I am not on board with this for me. I have expressed this at least 20 times since it first came up. I don't want my name changed. That will not stand up in court and consent. My mom is so upset, and she has tried talking me around, even tried offering me bribes to go along. Her husband asked me why I'm against it, and I have told him straight, I like my name as it is, and it's my tie to my dad, who died 2 years ago, and I don't want anyone taking anything or adding anything to it. My name has been my name for 15 years, and no, just because I'm a girl doesn't mean I'll change it when I get married, so that's not an argument to use with me. I also pointed out I could do the same when I'm older and get married and hyphenate. And I don't want 3 last names, and his name would be the one to go in that circumstance, not my dad's. Both are pretty pissed I won't work with them on this, and agreed to compromise a change. My mom has told me I'm being stubborn for the sake of being stubborn. And having a family name that brings us all together is nice, and I'm separating myself from that. Her husband told me I'm making him feel like there's something wrong with him/his name. I told him that was his problem, and I had made my feelings clear. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your name is your name, and at 15 you are old enough to decide for yourself. What do they want to do? Force you to change it and then let you change it back when you're of age? Hell, when my brother adopted his wife's kids, the younger was I think 4 or 5 and the older was 9 or 10. Maybe even younger, and to be honest, I think they were. Anyway, they asked the older if he wanted to take my brother's last name. They compromised and he took the last name as his middle name. The younger wasn't old enough to know the difference. Anyway, names are so important, and Opie absolutely has the right to choose hers. Not today, Opie. They have fair reasons for asking, just as you have fair reasons for refusing. However, I have expressed this at least 20 times since it first came up. I don't want my name changed, and I will not stand up in court and consent. That is 18 or 19 times more than should have been necessary. Trying to force the issue on their daughter makes them clearly a-holes here. Not today, Hull. Not today, Hull. You're not marrying the bloke. She is. She can change her name. Any kids they have can have their new name. Unless he adopts you, you shouldn't be under any obligation to do so. And even if he does, you're 15. You should be able to make your own mind. It's just a name. Just because your mom adds an extra name doesn't mean your relationship changes. Under no circumstances is he adopting me either. I'm happy to fight against changing my name and being adopted if I am ever forced to. Next story. Am I the a-hole for embarrassing my stepdad to his friends after he called my dad a loser? My mom was a single mom until I, 16 male, was 8, and that's when she met my stepdad Luke. My dad wasn't around because my mom said he was an alcoholic and knew he wasn't gonna be a good dad. Never found out about me until I was 10, and it was a whole thing. But he'd already been sober for years. Now I'm 16, and we're close. He's not just a fun dad, but also strict, and he was always upfront about his problems because he doesn't want me falling into the same things. Luke wasn't happy when my dad came to my life, and you can tell because he'd get serious. And then he ignores my dad when he comes to see me at stuff or my birthday parties. I don't get to spend a lot of time with my dad. Only weekends and when I'm on school break or holidays. So I ask him if we could have more time together. My mom doesn't want to because I belong at home. So they're taking this to court now for him to get joint custody. The other day, Luke's friends came over to the house and they are playing poker in the kitchen. I came downstairs to charge my phone when I heard his friends ask how it's going with the custody thing. He was just ranting about my dad being a bum, and then he said he doesn't know why he even want to go with that alcoholic loser. My dad was an alcoholic back then, but he literally been sober for like 11 years. He got his own business and make good money on top of all that, so it just made me mad how he was calling him. So I called out from the living room that my dad makes more than him, so I don't know why he thinks he can call him a loser when he's made his life better since he stopped drinking. I left my room mad, but I know it was quiet in the kitchen. My mom came to me after and she told me I didn't have a right to embarrass him like that. She knows Luke was out of line talking bad about my dad, but I need to understand it's hard for him knowing I want to spend more time at my dad's than here. So I don't know if I was the a-hole in this or not. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your mom and stepdad are though. What they are doing is called parental alienation, essentially trying to coach you to turn against your other parent, instead of letting you have whatever relationship you want. You are old enough to voice your opinion at a court. If you want more time with your dad, let him know that you are willing to testify that you want more time with him. Yeah, I know. That's what I told my dad that I'll tell a judge or whoever. He didn't want to push for more time before, unless I said I wanted that too. Sounds like you'd be better off away from Luke anyway. Not the a-hole. Your dad was an alcoholic and got better. Luke is an a-hole and staying the same. Not the a-hole. He shouldn't have talked about it in the house, friends or not. They aren't concerned about your feelings. You should have made to feel anything negative about wanting your dad in your life. I find it very interesting that they have made it about them. That's irresponsible, selfish, and childish. If this threatened them so much, perhaps they should work on being people who you want to be around. You hear stories about why people go no contact as adults, and this sort of thing is exactly why. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not letting my stepsister borrow my ring? My stepsister lost her mom growing up very young, so she doesn't really remember her mom that well. She didn't have anything to remember her by because she didn't have anything of sentimental value from her mother. My mom died when I was young as well, but I remember she had a ring she got from my grandmother and wanted to give that ring to me but passed away before she could do so. I wear that ring every day, and usually I'm very picky about people touching it unless it's my father and grandmother. My stepsister noticed the ring and has been eyeing it. She's asked for it quite often, and I always say no. My stepsister would always beg. It doesn't have any meaning to her, so I don't know why a grown woman is begging for another adult's ring. She asked last week, and as usual I said no. She blew up on me and said it wasn't fair that I always got what I want, and called me petty and selfish a-hole. She went to her father like she was a child, and now her father is mad at me. My father defended me and now they're arguing. My stepsister is saying it's because of me and I feel bad. Am I the a-hole for not letting my stepsister borrow my ring? Not the a-hole. Make sure you protect that ring, because if she's this obsessed with it, she may resort to stealing it. I came here to say the same thing. Not the a-hole. It's not hers. It has no connection with her, but it's very, very special to you. Perhaps that's why she wants it, which is even worse. If her father is enabling her, then he's an a-hole and a bully. She's not called Veruca Salt, is she? Not the a-hole, and I'm surprised you felt you needed to ask. Family dynamics really mess with your head. If they are super wonky, things that are obvious to outsiders are difficult for those living it. There's been many things in my life where people have been like, WTF, why do you think you're an a-hole? And it's like, well, my family made me feel like one, so I'd second-guess myself. Not the a-hole. It's your ring, not hers. And it was your mother's and has a special meaning to you. If she really wants a ring, she can buy one herself. She's not entitled to your ring. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not stepping down from walking my daughter down the aisle? I was pretty young, 18, when I had this fling with an older woman. It lasted a few months, then we didn't see each other again. 3 years ago, I found out I had a 20-year-old daughter that I fathered with this woman. We only found out because she got matched with my brother on some DNA site he had an account on. And that's how the story trickled out. She never told me she got pregnant because she didn't want her husband to know about it. Apparently he did when my daughter was 7, and was gone for a few years, then got back together when she was a teen. But they had a strained relationship. It got even more strained when she found out the truth, and neither had told her. I've been seeing my daughter regularly ever since, and we've tried to build our own relationship as father/daughter. It's been an emotionally heavy but rewarding journey. My daughter has kept minimal contact with them both from what I know, and doesn't see either as often as she used to. She got engaged to her boyfriend of 5 years. It's meant to be a small backyard wedding, and my daughter has given me the honor of asking to walk her down the aisle. It was very overwhelming for me, and I said yes without hesitation. This has gotten back to her mother and husband, neither which are happy about it, but since my daughter doesn't speak to them as much, they've contacted me. Since he's the one who raised her and such, it's rather disrespectful of me to accept a role I've only been filling for a few years when all the hard work was already done. I wanted to say plenty in that moment, but bit my tongue as best I could. He's just hurt that she didn't bother to ask him to be the one to give her away, and understands they have their own history. And asking me, man to man, to do him this favor and bow out of doing this since he's been the one in her life the most, and he understands it wasn't my fault that I wasn't. But still, seeing it from his perspective, yeah, I'm sure it's painful. My daughter doesn't want to consider it, so that's why stepping down on my own would be the next best thing, and I'd be doing something pretty disrespectful and selfish. That's rich coming from her, I know. Just to have a clear conscience on this, am I the a-hole? It's not your choice, and it's not that other man's choice. It's her choice, and she asked you, not the a-hole. I was just thinking that they, the mother and stepdad, seem very keen on taking other people's choices away. To then have the audacity to complain that Opie didn't do the hard work when he had no clue his daughter even existed? They're a-holes. And in asking Opie to step down, they're trying to take his daughter's choice away again, just in a roundabout way. They're going the right way to end up disowned. Wouldn't that be ironic? Not the a-hole. If your daughter is low contact with her mother and her stepfather, there's a very good reason for it. If you did bow out, there's no guarantee that she'll put whatever issues they all have aside and ask him to walk her down the aisle. You will also be deprived of yet another father-daughter moment. You've already missed out on so much, through no fault of your own. Don't miss out on this moment. If you do, this one will be your fault, and you will regret it forever. Do not step down. It's your daughter's choice. But you should talk to your daughter about doing something to include the only father she has known for a long time. Yes, they messed up by not telling her or you, but people are flawed, and he did raise her at the end of the day. Not the a-hole. Barely. He bowed out for a few years. If she thought he was worthy, she would have chosen him. Plus, he barely talks to them. Am I the a-hole for firing my stepfather? My dad owned a successful business but has passed away, and I, 25 male, inherited the business. The thing is, my stepfather works for me. My mother had an affair and cheated on my dad with his employee, aka Stepdad. My stepfather has now been acting like the boss and trying to get away with things that anyone will get fired for. He wouldn't do his work, and either came late or didn't show up at all, and I'm tired of this crap. Every time I try to talk to him about it, he always brushes me off. I'm tired of this blatant disrespect, and everyone at the company is as well. Well, yesterday, he tried to fire an employee of mine when he was in no position to do so. To be honest, I'm sick of him, and so are the workers. So I handed him a notice of termination personally and told him he had to go. He's mad at me, and so is my mother, and told me she was ashamed I was firing such a loyal employee. I almost laughed at that one. Though it actually would have saved the company losing money from firing him. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Bro, I'm surprised your father didn't fire him for sleeping with his wife. My father said that would be unprofessional to fire someone based on personal problems. But how could you have even a crumb of trust for someone that would sleep with your wife? It's gotta be an instant firing, even if the guy was doing him a favor. The father was very professional about it, obviously, and kept personal issues from the way he saw him as an employee. Clearly, he was a fine employee who changed because he thought he should be in charge, or he'd have been fired before. The anger I personally feel reading this is immense. I unfortunately have a less than stellar stepdad myself. And as someone who feels your pain, I am so proud you fired this ridiculous individual. Just because someone is family, which I use super loosely, doesn't mean you keep them around. My mom used to always defend her husband too, until I threatened my mom that she wouldn't see her potential grandkids because I refused to have them interacting with a man who thinks it's 1953. You're not the a-hole. Don't rehire this fool. I never will rehire him. He can get himself a new job. Not the a-hole. He tried to take advantage of you and get a free ride. He committed blatant insubordination, and keeping him on would hurt workplace morale. You warned him, he didn't listen, and now he has to deal with the consequences of his actions. Edit. I will update you guys. And yes, I do have recording of him in my chair acting like the boss with multiple witness employees. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents I don't care that I'm being excluded from my adoptive stepsister's child's life and won't be sending a gift? This might get a tiny bit complicated, but I will do my best to explain. I, 22 female, was adopted by my dad when I was 3. My bio father was a bad guy, and my mom and dad married when I was just shy of 2. My dad had a daughter, Sarah, from his late wife. Sarah, 28 female, was 8 when my parents got married, and was still grieving her mom and not open to me or my mom. Sarah's friends with my cousin Jessie, 27 female, and has been since before my parents got married. Jessie is probably the only person on my mom's side of my family that Sarah really talks to. So my parents had my younger siblings Jordan, 14 male, and Ella, 12 female, and Sarah never came around to them either. Once she turned 18, she cut us off and mom, and kept minimal contact with dad. She still talked to Jessie though. About a year and a half ago, Sarah and dad started having more contact, more of a relationship, and it grew. But she tried to still exclude us, which at the time meant just not wanting us in on Zoom calls and stuff. But once stuff opened back up, inviting dad around to see her without us. And so dad told her she couldn't treat the rest of our family this way. She told him she would invite my mom to adult things, but she was not interested in a relationship. They took it as a sign that she might eventually open up to more. But she has kept my mom as still someone only invited to get her dad there. She does not want me or our younger siblings around at all. She has told them I am not her sister, and Dad adopting me doesn't change the fact we're not blood. In fact, my mom is nothing more to her than some woman her dad married after her mom died. Now she's having a baby, and she's due pretty soon. We weren't invited to the baby shower, and she told my dad that my mom will not be given any title, is not welcome to spend time alone with her child, that he is the only grandparent her child will know from her side. I'm not sure what is going on there, but my parents wanted me to be upset and to still make an effort to reach out, send a gift. But I told them I don't care, that I won't send anything. They're upset. Said the fact Jessie will be godmother is a sign she would still come around more. They don't see that Jessie to her isn't family like family through the marriage. She's just a good friend. Well, my siblings and I are not family, neither is my mom, and she has made herself very clear in this. They think it's a Nahal thing not to at least try for the baby. I don't think I'm the a-hole, but maybe I could have been more tactful in saying I don't care, because I know they care and they love her, and I know the baby's innocent in all this. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole at all. Clearly, Sarah has a lot of unresolved issues around her mom's death, and things might have been different if she'd had adequate mental help. But that's not your fault, and you're at peace with the situation. I guess they're still wanting to try and play happy families, but again, not your problem. Sarah's made herself loud and clear. They are. I think they see her and my dad's growing relationship as progress that points in the sign of hope/light at the end of the tunnel. But she never loved us, so why would she start now after all these years? Why would she want to try? It's sad. I'll never say it isn't. But this has been how it was my whole life practically. I see no sign of her wanting to change it now. Agree. She's had 20 years to come around, and your parents keep thinking that the next milestone will change anything? They're being delusional, and I don't blame you for putting your foot down over it. Not Dayhal. Sarah's never made an effort. She's made it clear that she doesn't like you. She won't make an effort, and she barely tolerates you around, and then only to have a relationship with her dad. I feel bad for her because it sounds like she could have, or still does, desperately need therapy for issues relating to losing her mother. But that's an explanation, not an excuse, for how she's treating you. I don't see a reason why you would care about someone who for years has said that you mean nothing to them and never will. I have no doubt that she'll reach out quickly when she needs a babysitter or wants gifts, even if you're not invited to birthdays, etc., or any other sort of assistance when she needs it. She had loads of therapy when she was a kid. She was in therapy before my parents even met. I think she's just totally closed off to the idea of her family being anything other than her biological parents. I'm not so sure about that either. I know for my dad she had some money troubles a few months ago and none of us heard anything. She seems very happy to not have me and my siblings around her, and to have my mom around as little as humanly possible. Not Dayhal. Your stepsister says she doesn't view you as family. You believe her. This is probably more upsetting for your dad and mom. It 100% is. I was more upset as a kid, but even then I realized by 8 or 9 that things were not going to change. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking 70-year-old mother out of my house and telling her she needed to leave immediately? My mother, 70-year-old, came to stay with me in December. She lives in another country. I was at the time going through a divorce, and my daughter, 12-year-old, had been really sick, in and out of the hospital, and I was struggling to cope. So she came to offer me support and was only supposed to stay a month. Then further lockdown/flight restrictions were introduced, and she wasn't able to fly home and has been here ever since. She's always been somewhat difficult to get along with, but I've always been very grateful for everything that she has ever done for me, so I do make concessions for her behavior. However, she started interfering in a few of my arguments with my 18-year-old daughter. She did a few things I didn't agree with, and get into a few arguments where my daughter said some out-of-order things, such as, "You used Dad and that's why he left you." I would get upset, and my mother would then intervene to tell me to shut up, not say another word, stop mistreating my daughter, etc. My daughter would then jump at that and respond with, "See? Even your own mother is telling you you're abusive." My daughter then left to go stay with her boyfriend, and my mother would call her to tell her not to come home because I was still being impossible. The attitude upset me, because it felt like she was breaking my bond with my daughter. They asked her to please stop. My mother said she wouldn't because I really was abusive, and she was afraid for my daughter. Please note that I've never laid a hand on my kid. She refused. I was finally able to talk to my daughter on her own, and we sorted stuff out, and she came home. She even apologized for some of the mean comments made. So now everything was good between the two of us. Except now my mother wasn't talking to me because she claimed I was rude when I begged her to stop. I wasn't in the mood to go apologize because I was hurt that she was okay with driving a wedge between my kid and I. Then this past weekend, whilst I was out, she approached my 12-year-old and spent 2 hours telling her how sorry she was for her, that she had to be raised by an abusive parent like me. My mother even claimed my daughter would have been better off being raised by her. When I arrived home, my 12-year-old daughter was crying. I called my sister and asked her to intervene, that it wasn't okay what my mother was doing. My mother denied everything and said my daughter was lying. My sister agreed with my mother that my daughter lied. I don't believe my daughter's lying, nor does my 18-year-old. I had enough and told my mother to pack her bags and book the next flight out, and that I didn't care how many layovers were required. All direct flights are still cancelled. She's my mother, and it really upsets me that I told her to leave. I do feel, though, that my relationship with my daughters matter above all else. Am I the a-hole? Edit 1. What led my 18-year-old to get mad at me and act out was that we were under really strict lockdown restrictions at the time, and she wanted to go out with her friends, and I said no. That it was wrong to break the rules and risk getting fined or thrown in jail. My mother said that me saying no to my daughter was mistreating her. When my daughter replied with comments such as that I had been using Dad and that's why he left me, I told my daughter that was out of line. I then had my mother in the background telling me to shut up and stop being mistreating. When a week later, my daughter took money out of the account we have for her that is to pay for her college, without my knowledge, so that she could buy a new iPhone, my daughter and I got into another argument because I told her it was wrong to spend college money on a new phone. My mother then again called me abusive for getting mad over that. My 18-year-old is generally a good kid, and for the most part, we actually get on very well. These were actually isolated incidents, which could have been resolved rather quickly had it not been for my mother egging my daughter on. Now for the top comments. Not day-hall. Your kids come first, and besides, your mother was there to help. This behavior isn't helpful, so her presence is no longer needed or desired. Not day-hall. Thank you for trying to help in a trying time, but unfortunately, your support is no longer necessary if you believe I am a bad parent. I will work out my relationship with both my children and strive to be a better parent without you present. And if your sister wants to house her mother, she's perfectly welcome to do so. My mother does regularly live with my sister. Or rather, my sister, 32-year-old, still lives with my mother and is financially dependent on her. She manages my mother's diary. She's a psychologist and still sees patients online. Not day-hall. Do you think she was hoping your daughter would ask to live with her instead? I actually do. Not day-hall. Let's assume your daughter lied for a minute. Is that behavior she would do if your toxic mother was there? Sounds like classic boomer. Have her parents BS with a modest helping of crazy. You're amazing to prioritize your daughter's safety and well-being. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my mom change my name? So my mother is super into numerology. It's the study for numbers and its coinciding events. She believes in it while I personally don't because it's never been proven to work. She's taken a few classes and is now a certified numerologist. Now, she's making everyone in my family wear random bracelets, wear specific colors and such to balance our chakras and bring in good vibrations. I didn't have a problem with this because it isn't that big a deal. But now she's making me change my name and personality so that it fits her idea of what a good person should be according to numerology. There are specific numbers associated with your name and those numbers in turn affect your personality. She wants me to write this new name multiple times a day and change it on official records, passports, ID cards, etc. And that's too much of a hassle. Being so annoyed and fed up with it, I told her politely that I wouldn't do all this because I don't believe in it. She threw a big fit, saying I was never going to graduate with good grades, get into uni, or get a job because I didn't change my name, and ultimately struggled so much in life that I wasn't going to go anywhere. Obviously, I was very upset when she said my life would be a failure, and so I went to my room and kind of distanced myself from her. She then threw another tantrum saying I never listened to anything she suggests, which is false. I'm Asian, so my mom is very involved in my life. And saying this is going to make my life better. I chose to ignore her, and now she's acting all sad and grumpy, and telling my little brother what a useless and bad sister I am, which made me feel like the a-hole. But am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. As delicately as I can put this, I think your mom has issues that she needs to work out. This is exactly what I thought, but I have no idea how to bring them up without her getting offended and her mood being thrown off. And just be honest and say what you're thinking without being rude. She's clearly not pulling any punches with you. She's being rude as hell. Your mom's being irrational. Not Dayhal. Your name is a big thing to you and you are well within your rights to not change your name to one that has good vibes. Hope your mom can soon see she's going overboard, but it might be best to avoid / not engage like you're currently doing for a while. Thank you for the advice. I'm trying not to bring it up at any cost and only talking to her when I need to. Definitely not Dayhal. It's nice that she cares so much and wants you to have a good life, but you obviously don't need to change your name for that to happen. Yes, exactly. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my friend's boyfriend she went off birth control? I, 22 female, am in a group chat with two of my friends, who I'll call Lily, 20 female, and Hannah, 21 female. Lily has been dating a guy for a few months now, and really likes him, and I'm happy for her. We finally all have boyfriends, and we're planning to have a triple date sometime. But she seems really serious, and had already talked about moving in with him, and marrying him. Last night, Lily put in the group chat that she thought she was infertile. I thought this was weird, so I asked why. She told me she had been off birth control and hasn't gotten pregnant yet. I'll admit I had a bit of judgment for her trying to start a family after dating the guy for such a short time, but I asked how long the both of them had been trying, as I thought it might just need time. She dropped the fact on me that her boyfriend did not know she was off birth control, and that they had slept together 4 times with him not knowing she was off birth control. After she said this, she again started to talk about how much she loved him and saw a future with him, but said she got off of the birth control due to side effects. I love Lily, but I felt as if I couldn't let this guy keep doing this without knowing, so I told him. Hannah supported my decision, but also felt I should have waited as we know that Lily lies a lot and could lie to either us or him. Now Lily is mad at me. Her boyfriend is mad at me. She said I lied and he believed her. And I feel as if I might be the a-hole because it isn't my relationship and I should have stayed out of it, knowing that she lies about a lot of things and could have been lying to me and Hannah. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. While it's technically not your place to reveal that kind of thing, it's a good Samaritan act to warn someone when they're being deceived. He doesn't need to know every intimate detail of her life, but when he's being misled into thinking she's on birth control when she isn't, that impacts his life, her life, and potentially any children's lives. If it's no big deal, then she can warn him and let him know. But it's clear she doesn't respect him enough to want to get pregnant because she didn't seek out his cooperation. To add on to this, imagine Lily was fertile and did get pregnant. Then her boyfriend is stuck with a kid, or paying child support for the next 18 years. Not an a-hole. Going off your only birth control and not informing your partner is extremely horrible. If her boyfriend chooses to believe her over you and not question the matter further, well, that's his choice, and predictable consequences may follow. Edited to add. Also, maybe a step back from Lily, who has a track record of lying. Not much good comes out of maintaining friendships with those people, and she clearly has no problem throwing you under the bus and lying to her boyfriend. Could you send him screenshots of the convo where she admits to going off birth control? Birth control is something you don't lie about, whether it's about being on it or being off. It's a huge breach of trust, and definitely something I would not be comfortable hiding from someone's significant other. Not at a-hole. What Lily is doing is heinous. Imagine if the tables were switched and he was the one poking holes in the protection. It's called reproductive coercion. You tried to warn him at least, so now it is on him to step up the precautions. Lily is not someone I would want as a friend, so the trash took itself out. It's assault. Not an a-hole. Adobe is morally obligated to let the boyfriend know. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for revealing a child's existence that my sister tried to hide? Little background. My half-sister, let's call her Ellie, and I have different fathers. My mother and her father separated when she was 2 years old, but he always made a great effort to be in her life and support her. My father was around for 10 years, but after he left my mother, he never wanted contact. He paid no child support, and I desperately wished that my father would love me. Now, my sister, 27, and me, 21, usually talk to each other over phone every day. At the beginning of last year, she met a guy and they fell in love. A few months after, it came out that his ex-girlfriend is pregnant by him and that she soon will birth his child. My sister was devastated. We often talked about how she could leave him if that's too much for her, or that she could accept the child and maybe it would turn out good. She decided to stay with him. But after the baby was born, she told me that he didn't want to pay child support and that he tried to pressure the mother of his child not to try getting money from him. Also, she doesn't want him to see the child and wants him to move with her very far away from this child. I was shocked with how she behaved. I mean, I didn't expect much from him, but she saw firsthand how cruel it can be for someone to feel like they're not wanted by their father. I told her that I don't find it okay the way they handled this, and she just cut me off. We had 4 months no contact, and she felt like I owe her an apology for getting into her business, which I refused. She never told me that she didn't tell our family, except our mom, anything about this child, but I slowly realized it. Yesterday, my grandparents called me and told me that Ellie acted weird, that she doesn't call anymore, and if they talk, she behaves weird. They asked her directly what was going on, but she didn't answer them. They were super weird, and I tried to escape the situation by telling them that Ellie is fine. They didn't believe me and asked me why I'd lie. I didn't feel comfortable, but then I told them that we don't speak to each other, how disappointed I am, and how they treat this child. My grandparents were super angry that they got lied to over months from her, and how they both treat this child. They stopped their financial support for her and are pretty furious. My sister called me and said that I destroyed her life because now she looks bad in front of our family. I'm really unsure if I was the a-hole in this situation. Not an a-hole. She looks bad because she supported the a-hole. Maybe it wasn't your business, but oh well, I'd have done the same thing. It's only fair to be honest. Also, what does she think? That if they have a child and for some reason split up, he won't do the same to her? Hijacking top comment. Maybe reading a little too much between the lines. But maybe Ellie's not okay? Her boyfriend seems like the real a-hole for sure, but maybe he's also an abuser and controlling Ellie? She never even asked you to lie to them. Not an a-hole. My sister called me and said that I destroyed her life because now she looks bad in front of our family. That's just the consequences of her actions. Not an a-hole. She doesn't look bad. She's a toxic hypocrite. She wants to pretend the child doesn't exist. Both she and the father of the child don't want to provide support to a newborn. She's a 27-year-old adult. If she thinks a child that can't even walk doesn't deserve support, why should she get financial support from your grandparents? She ruined her life herself. Actions have consequences, even outside of the law. She knew how the family would react. Not an a-hole. Your sister is 27 and receives financial support from her grandparents? Your sister is not the greatest. Her wonderful boyfriend has given her a preview as to how it will be if they split as parents. So I guess your sister is not that smart either. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling someone not to have a baby in their late 40s even though I did? I had unknown fertility issues. So after a few years, my husband and I stopped trying but decided not to use any kind of birth control. I ended up having my first spontaneous pregnancy at 45 years old and had my first and only child at 46. The doctor told me I had polycystic ovarian syndrome and said that it was common for women like me to have the problem almost fix itself closer to menopause, which is probably how it happened. We kept our child out of emotion. Yes, we were financially fine to do it and everything, but it was all about emotion. My cousin who got married at 40 is now looking into having kids and is starting to pursue treatment. She asked me what it was like in all of these questions, so I honestly told her that while I love my child more than anything and I wouldn't choose for her to not exist, I wouldn't have chosen to do this or forced it to happen. Why? It was not fun. I love my child and finally having the family I always wanted. But 46 is far, far too late to have a baby, and I wish someone had been honest with me when it was my time. I had so much extra testing and had to take so many precautions. My husband and I are now 58 years old, dealing with middle school registration and what to do with schooling options. I had to fill out kindergarten paperwork on the same day that we got our AARP cards. I have to obsessively dye my hair and keep up on makeup and fashion trends, so my child's peers and other parents won't stare at us the way that people stared at older parents when I was a child. And I know that logically they weren't as old as we are. I have to constantly do research to make sure I'm prepared for this generation's challenges, and I'm not making my child look behind or outdated. My ordinarily healthy husband had a heart attack 2 years ago, and with that, family history and the world today, we have to be genuinely afraid that we will die before our child is 18. I have to have very firm plans on who exactly could immediately take our child in if needed. We can't have maybe like younger parents. We have had to prepare my middle schooler for these possibilities, in as much of a child-friendly way as possible, and a written list of who to call, in what order, and a sample script of what to say. I have nobody that can help me with any of this because everyone I actually know had their kids in a completely different time. It's so many extra concerns and worries that how much extra money you have doesn't really make up for it as much as you would think. Once again, I love my child more than life itself, but it is not as easy as you can do it any time. It's just like becoming a parent at any other time. Now she's mad at me for not being supportive and people think I regret my child. I'm not. I love her. I'm just saying that there's a difference and that there are things to consider besides the emotion, especially when it's a very deliberate choice versus nature. Am I the a-hole for telling her this? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. She asked, you answered. And may I just say, as I sit here at age 44, 20 weeks pregnant with my second child, you have scared the ever-loving daylights out of me. It's a lot different when it's common in your family and/or you have other children. I would be much less scared if my daughter had an older sibling and/or cousins of her own. Not the a-hole. You answered the wrong question. You took it at face value and told her the truth. The real question was, there is no question. Tell me sweet, sweet lies that validate my decisions. A lot of people told us the lies, but mostly it was just oversimplified because they wouldn't and couldn't know what the reality would be. We already had the emotions of, it's happening right now, and pregnancy hormones, so it would have changed a lot less than someone who was still planning it out. But there is never a perfect time to have a child. You can have a baby in your early 20s, when you are starting out with massive amounts of college debt and impossible job markets. You can have a baby in your 30s, when your career demands all of your time and attention. You can have a baby in your 40s when your energy and abilities aren't what they used to be. Wanting to dye your hair and research trends shouldn't be something that you use to discourage someone from having a family. And unfortunately, health can fail you at any time. Your cousin asked you and you gave her an honest answer, so not an a-hole. But I don't believe there is ever a perfect time to start a family. Life is inconvenient. There are a lot of deeper issues that I touched on. I also left out due to the word count that my husband and I won't be able to retire because we will be in our 60s by the time she graduates high school, and we do need to help her through college. But I thought that would be implied due to our ages a little bit. College isn't really a requirement, but since she's an only child who will be orphaned very young, we feel we owe it to her to give her the best start possible. There's also major generational gaps in that. Plus, being an only child means that she will be far more alone than a typical child of people who had multiple kids in their 20s to 30s. The last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling niece I prefer my real name to a nickname? My youngest niece, Raven, recently entered 2nd grade and was filling out an identity and names worksheet. It was pretty much about family members. You talk to 3 family/friends about their identity. Raven asked to call me on Skype and talk about her worksheet. She asked if I had kids, what I did for a job, etc. At the very end, she said, I already knew this question. I've filled it out when we first started. I asked her what the question was. She said, your name is Whirly. I tell everyone my aunt has a cool name. I told her, nicely, that my name is actually Winona and she is the only one who calls me Whirly, minus my sister. And my sister only calls me Whirly when talking about me to Raven. Raven got confused and I said, when you were little, you could not pronounce Winona and said Whirly instead. Your mom thought it was so cute. Raven asked if everyone calls me Whirly, because it was so cute. I told her honestly, everyone calls me Winona, including the other nephews, because I don't use a nickname outside of Winnie. Everyone I know calls me Winona, just like everyone calls you Raven. My niece finished her homework, talked about her school day, and we said goodbye. The next day, my sister called me in a fit of rage, saying I ruined her daughter's whole night because she called me Aunt Winona instead of Whirly. My sister then explained that when Raven called Uncle Top, my brother Christopher, she asked him, do you like being called Uncle Top? And when he said, actually, if you want to know, I go by Chris. So now Raven is upset the other adults have told her they dislike the nicknames. And while I thought it was cute when she was little, I kind of hated the nickname. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not an a-hole. All you did was tell her your real name. So did her uncle. Raven had to learn eventually. I imagine it comes down to her sister choosing not to use her siblings' actual names because she thought her daughter's nicknames were so cute and kept it going long after. She's basically taught her wrong for her own entertainment. Not an a-hole. Your sister seems to be the problem, not Raven. The kid probably just registered the name change and asked the next one, and that is it. I doubt the kid had a meltdown or anything about the name. You can even tell Raven that Winona is a pretty cool name too. It's not that common, and there are famous people that share your name. I love my name. I love being Aunt Winona. Not a a-hole. I understand children have a hard time pronouncing things, but as they get older, it's okay to set boundaries with preferred names and pronouns, etc. I don't think you did anything wrong. You just gave her your preference and prepared her for the real world. I felt like that was part of the reason her homework existed. I know a lot of kids who don't know their parents' real names outside of mom and dad. I am not a huge fan of nicknames. I had issues when I was little with people calling me sweetie or honey. I would always tell them it's Winona. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.